In 2026, a 73-year-old man walked out of a federal facility after spending almost 10 years in prison. He hadn't been convicted of theft. He hadn't been convicted of fraud. He went to prison for refusing to answer one question: where is the gold? Somewhere, 500 gold coins worth millions of dollars are still missing. And the only man who claimed to know where they were has just been set free without ever saying. This story starts in 1857 with a ship, a hurricane, and a cargo so valuable it helped trigger a financial panic across an entire nation. And it ends with one of the strangest legal sagas in American history. This is the story of the SS Central America and the man who found it. In the 1850s, the California gold rush was sending enormous quantities of gold east to banks, investors, and the United States Treasury. The SS Central America was one of the ships that carried it, a side-wheel steamer running the route from Panama to New York, carrying passengers home from the gold fields, along with crates of gold bars, coins, and dust. In September 1857, the ship left Havana for New York, carrying around 580 people and an estimated 30,000 pounds of gold. Off the coast of the Carolinas, the ship sailed directly into a hurricane. For 3 days, the crew and passengers fought the storm, bailing water by hand after the engines failed. It wasn't enough. On September 12, 1857, the SS Central America sank. 425 people drowned, and with them went one of the largest shipments of gold in American history, disappearing into water more than a mile deep. The loss of that gold hit the American economy hard. Banks that had been counting on its arrival were suddenly short on reserves. It became one of the contributing factors to the Panic of 1857, a financial crisis that swept through the United States that same year. The wreck and the gold sat untouched on the ocean floor for more than a century, a mile and a half down, far beyond the reach of any diver. For most people, it was a legend, a line in history books. For one man, it was an obsession. Tommy Thompson was an ocean engineer with a talent for designing deep-sea recovery technology. In the early 1980s, he became convinced he could find the Central America using robotic technology that, at the time, didn't really exist yet. He pitched the idea to investors in Columbus, Ohio. Find a legendary shipwreck, a mile and a half underwater, using equipment that hadn't been built yet. Remarkably, they said yes, and put in roughly $12 million. Thompson and his team spent years developing a remote-controlled robotic vehicle capable of operating at extreme ocean depths, years ahead of similar technology used elsewhere. In 1988, after years of searching, Thompson's team located the wreck of the SS Central America, and what they found exceeded almost every expectation: gold bars, gold coins, gold dust, tons of it perfectly preserved on the seafloor. Thompson became an instant celebrity. Newspapers called the wreck the Ship of Gold. He was hailed as a visionary, a real-life treasure hunter who had pulled off the impossible. Eventually, much of the recovered treasure was sold to a gold marketing group for approximately $50 million. $50 million. From an investment of $12 million. On paper, it should have been one of the most successful expeditions in history, but the investors never saw a return. In 2005, nearly 2 decades after putting up the money, they sued Thompson, saying they had received nothing from the sale. By this point, Thompson was living quietly in a secluded mansion in Florida. As the legal pressure mounted, he simply withdrew. In 2012, a federal judge ordered Thompson to appear in court. He didn't show up. He vanished. When U.S. Marshals searched his abandoned home, they found something striking: a book titled How to Live Your Life Invisible, with one page specifically marked, "Live your life on a cash-only basis." For over 2 years, Thompson was a fugitive. U.S. Marshals put his image on digital billboards across Ohio and Florida. Nothing worked. In January 2015, marshals finally caught a break, tracking a companion of Thompson's through bus and taxi rides across South Florida, leading them to a hotel. Tommy Thompson, then 62 years old, was arrested. The man who found one of the greatest treasures in American history had spent 2 years living under a fake name, paying for everything in cash. In court, a specific issue emerged. Among the recovered treasure were 500 rare gold coins, worth an estimated $2.5 million, that had simply disappeared from the official accounting. The court ordered Thompson to reveal where those coins were. He claimed they had been placed in a trust based in Belize, and that he no longer had access to them. The court didn't believe him. In 2015, Thompson was held in civil contempt, not as punishment for a crime but as pressure to make him comply. He was sent to prison until he revealed the location of the coins. Normally, civil contempt sentences last months, maybe up to 18 months in extreme cases. Thompson's lasted years. 1 year became 2, 2 became 5, 5 became 8. In 2020, in one hearing, Thompson told the judge, "I don't know the whereabouts of the gold. I feel like I don't have the keys to my freedom." Legal experts began to take notice. The underlying lawsuit against Thompson had actually been dismissed back in 2018, yet he remained behind bars for years afterward, held on the contempt order alone. One coin dealer, who had bought and sold nearly the entire original treasure, said publicly that going to prison for 10 years over what was essentially a business dispute is not America. In 2025, a judge finally ruled that Thompson's continued imprisonment had lost its coercive effect. After nearly 10 years in custody, one of the longest civil contempt detentions in American history, Tommy Thompson, now 73, walked free. And the 500 gold coins, still missing. As far as the public record shows, nobody knows where they are. Maybe they really are sitting in a trust in Belize, exactly as Thompson said. Maybe they're buried somewhere only he ever knew. Maybe, after a decade in prison, even he no longer remembers. What makes this story remarkable isn't just the treasure. It's everything that happened after it was found. A discovery worth tens of millions of dollars should have made everyone involved wealthy. Instead, it triggered 2 decades of lawsuits, a manhunt, and the longest contempt sentence most legal experts had ever seen. Part of the problem was structural. The original deal between Thompson and his investors was reportedly vague about exactly how profits would be split, a gap that, once $50 million was on the table, became impossible to resolve peacefully. There's something almost symmetrical about this story. The original gold, lost in a storm, helped trigger a financial panic in 1857, and the recovered gold, found over a century later, triggered its own smaller financial and legal panic among everyone who touched it. In both cases, gold that had been sitting safely out of reach, at the bottom of the ocean, or in a private trust, caused far more chaos once people started fighting over who controlled it. It's a pattern that shows up again and again, far beyond shipwrecks. Inheritance disputes, business partnerships that fall apart the moment they actually succeed. Lottery winners who end up in years of litigation with friends and family. Sudden wealth doesn't just solve problems. Often, it reveals exactly how poorly the underlying relationships and agreements were built in the first place. Tommy Thompson found something almost nobody else on Earth could have found. He pulled off a feat of engineering and exploration that genuinely changed deep-sea archaeology. And then he spent more time fighting over it, hiding from it, and sitting in prison because of it than he ever spent enjoying it. Somewhere, 500 gold coins remain wherever they are. The ship that once sank an economy is now a footnote, and the man who found its secret walked out of prison still keeping one of his own. history tends to remember discoveries. It remembers them far less often for what happens to the people who make them. If you made it this far, leave a comment. Do you think Thompson really forgot where the coins are? Or is he just better at staying invisible than anyone gave him credit for? Some treasures are found. Some are lost twice. And some, it turns out, are never really found at all, only relocated, from the bottom of the ocean to the inside of one man's memory.